Hey, welcome to the Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. As always, before we get started, we want to say thank you to Jehovah. Thank you for his son, Jesus Christ. Thank you for our families. Thank you for work and our ability to do the things we're able to do. Book of Dad Radio Show, and I'm hanging out with Eddie Ice G. What's up, Eddie?
What's up, brother? How you feel?
I'm doing great, man. No quips for me today. No nicknames. What's up?
Nope, I'm being nice today. Nope. Hey, it was just Father's Day, so I'm giving you respect.
And Juneteenth. So we all on the respect thing, you know.
Right.
Hey, well, let's jump right in, man. We got a great guest today. Let's talk about Atlanta. Atlanta is an oasis in the South. It's an oasis in the state of Georgia. It's a metropolitan in the middle of a rural state, if you will. But one area in particular in Atlanta is thriving, and it's because of people like our guest today. And I'm not going to steal any thunder. I'm just going to jump right in and say hello to Mr. Southeast Atlanta, Mr. Leonard Adams. Leonard, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine there, Dr. Benson. How are you? How's it going there,
great.
Gross?
Great, sir.
Well, Leonard, man, we got a lot of stuff we want to get to, but you are such a well-renowned and well-known guy, and you are a go-getter, and you've done so many things in the area. Things that you're champions of is a race and blight in the city of Atlanta, making sure affordable housing is available. You're an HBCU graduate. You're a veteran of the military. I mean, the list just goes on, but I'm not going to steal your thunder. Talk to us about you, Mr. Adams, and why we even care that you're such a great guy.
Oh, wow. Just to talk about myself, just being a humble person. I like to start off with basically I found my purpose early in life as a young 20-something-year-old person. Being an entrepreneur coming out of Detroit, Michigan, and shoveling snow as a youngster, paper routes as a youngster, really didn't show me or tell me that cutting grass as a youngster didn't say you're an entrepreneur. But if I look back over my life, I've really been an entrepreneur basically my whole life. I've always tried to create a way for myself, and nothing against persons that work at facilities that someone else has created that way, because the world needs people to start companies and those to work at these companies. But when I say I found my purpose early on, I knew coming out of college in 1993 that I had something that I cared about. And what I cared about was the way that Black communities looked in every city and state that I went to. They were basically the same, almost identical. It was, you could drop a person at an MLK in basically any city or state in the U.S., and that was going to be the underserved part of town. And, I just didn't know what to do, but I knew drugs were an issue in our community. I knew that homelessness was an issue in our community. So I decided to basically spend the rest of my life providing housing for most vulnerable populations. Outside of that, man, I'm a father of a young 2-year-old son. Was dedicated
Miracle
to
guy.
my business. Yeah, been dedicated to my businesses for so long that some of the things that traditionally you will think of wife and family and children, I didn't think of those things as I was trying to drive change and transform community. But later on in life, it came my way. I was able to marry and have a son. And you talked about Knoxville College, and a graduate of alumnus of Knoxville College, served on the board of trustees for Knoxville College. And all of a sudden, I found myself in a position to take over as the interim president and now the 31st president of a historical Black college and university. So I'm very prideful of where I've come and where I am today. Still got a lot of work to do, and that's my calling. Just keep striving, and that's what I'm going to do.
The thing that's very interesting about what you said about the HBCU aspect, we've had numerous guests on here, and a lot of them are HBCU graduates, and they bring that flavor, if you will, of being able to interact with people who they don't know. And is that something that's specific to HBCU attendees? Because a lot of us that I know of, we don't just thrive there, we start there. Talk about how that HBCU experience has allowed you to catapult into other things and the ability to deal with other people.
100% correct there, Dr. Benson. I really don't think I'll be who I am today if it was not for my experience and my time at an HBCU, a small college in the hills of East Tennessee called Knoxville College. Knoxville College accepted me as who I was at that time, wrapped his hands around me. The difference that I think I saw from HBCUs and PWIs, which I got my master's from a predominantly white institution. That's the PWI that I reflect on. The faculty and the staff and the landscapers, these guys were like aunties and uncles at an HBCU. It was, get your butt to class. I mean, they talk to you just like, I saw you at the party last night, so get up and get your butt to class. So it was that. It was the ability to become a grown adult in a family that said you can do anything. It also said be respectful, have manners, look a person in the eye, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go out there and basically fail, honestly. And that's what I took as an entrepreneur. In the title I have social entrepreneur. That's because later on in life, I started to trend businesses towards really having impact versus just a financial gain. But I was an entrepreneur in the beginning. An entrepreneur is a tough road to be on. It's basically trial by fire, learning as you go. So you have to be able to get out there with the sharks, fall in the deep end, get bit, get out and try it all over again. And I pride myself with that because I was able to practice some of these things at Knoxville College. I had a business called GQ Promotions. I'm not sure if you knew that.
I know now.
Now I was the, even though I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi and we threw a lot of parties, but our parties were young and basically dance till you sweat your hair out type parties, right?
Right.
As a sophomore, Dr. Benson, I was pulled off to Desert Storm. And when I came back, I had a different approach about college. Even though I was just going into my junior year, I was immediately focused on completing school and understood that life was a little bit shorter than what I had initially thought it was. Because there are some people that I know that didn't come back from Desert Storm, right? I was just thinking a little bit different. And I talked about the business of GQ Promotions. At that time, I had visited a party in Atlanta, and everybody was in suits and dresses, and it was called First Fridays. And it was basically grown-up type of party, and I felt like, now this is what we're missing. I'm tired of this. I'm soaking wet by the time the end of the party and stepping around the party all night long. And I started to basically throw my own parties in Knoxville, Tennessee with a partner of mine named Ronald Haygood. And we were known for throwing basically the grown-up parties in a small rural town. Both of us being from Detroit, Michigan, we brought a lot of flavor. You used that word earlier. That was different than what the rural Tennessee had seen in their past. So anyway, I just say that because Knoxville allowed me to experience that and fail at that, which we did. And it gave me a springboard or a safety net to say, it's okay, dust yourself off and try it again.
Absolutely. Well, you know what they're saying, that song goes, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Apparently it did just that, made you stronger. But this is the Book of Dad radio show, and I'm Dr. Robert Benson, hanging out with my main man, Eddie G. And we're talking to the great Leonard Adams of the southwest portion of Atlanta. And we're going to finish picking his brain when we come right back.
See why listeners from over 150 countries around the world follow the Book of Dad radio show. Join Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G as they chat with special guests who share their stories and information that will change your life. Watch and listen on lifeandspiritonline.com or subscribe to the Book of Dad radio show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Brought to you by the NASCA Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad radio show with Dr. Robert Benson and me, Eddie G, and our good friend Leonard Adams, who is, an entrepreneur who is not about self, but about the community. And I wanted to ask you, Leonard, how you got started really providing housing for the less fortunate, as well as anyone who wanted home ownership, because we all know that one of the goals in life is to own a home. Part of your success is having a roof over your head, because that leads into so many other things to provide for your family and give you a mindset to be able to concentrate on success. So tell us how you got started on that journey and what directed you to this path.
Thank you there, Eddie G. The question is a question I get asked multiple times. How did I get here? What's the success look like? Why do you do this? And I'll tell you honestly, I was calling myself getting into the real estate industry, being a landlord and basically collecting rent. But the population that I actually housed in my rooming houses, which is a house that multiple individuals that are unrelated live in, and they pay rent by the week. And that's basically the description of a rooming house that I was running. All of them had a substance addiction or mental illness, really a substance addiction, and was basically living on the verge of being homeless, coming out of shelters, living in these short-term housing situations, and basically working a job that could get them enough money for that day to pay for their rent for either that day or for that week. And as I listened to the individuals and went through the ups and downs of them not paying their rent or paying their rent, I just really felt that my calling would be, if I could help these individuals maintain their employment, get off of these drugs, they will stay housed, and we can offer what I would consider services to them. So in 2001, I started Quest Community Development Corporation. As the founder, real estate has been the tool that we use to transform lives. It is not the front runner for what we are here for. We don't believe an affordable place to live only is a rubric for success for an individual that have challenges. It's the support services that we offer to build the individual. Basically, I'm saying you could take a homeless person off the street and give them the Taj Mahal. But if you don't work with them, they're not going to maintain the Taj Mahal in a sense, for lack of better words. And you see this all the time where you see people living up under the bridge. It's not because they just felt that was the best housing facility for them. Something's going on that has them under there. And we work to address that. So over the last 22 years, going from one employee up to now 51 employees, going from a budget of $30,000 a year to over $6 million in an annual budget, investing $140 million in affordable housing over the next 3 years in 500 apartment units on the west side of Atlanta. We have just really grown and have trended upward to provide affordable, supportive housing for Atlanta's most vulnerable. We pride ourselves in being one of the only developers, particularly minority-led developer, that is concentrating on those who have lower income levels. The real estate game is very, very sensitive when it comes to money. It is basically designed for the highest and best type of tenant. Who can pay the most and give you the least problems? But where is the people that don't make that much supposed to live, right? Where are some of the challenged people? Are they supposed to be homeless just because they have a few challenges going on or disabilities going on? Who's going to develop for them? And that's why Quest Community Development Corporation is a nonprofit, because we want to have impact in people's lives while doing good. So my motto is, still the old adage saying, do good by doing well, or do well by doing good, however you want to say it. Basically, make your money, but you got to understand you need to give back.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. And you mentioned an element of the population who you serve. And because, we're talking about, properties that have been blighted, development of people who are poor, you also have to deal with a very, very huge element surrounding crime. And when you're dealing with crime, you have to bring in the police, if you will. Now, there's a constant and ongoing tension, if you will, between people of that typical demographic and the police. How has that impacted your development efforts in maintaining your communities? And has it at all been a deterrent, so to speak, or an obstacle, if you will?
Yes, we've had some of both, just to be honest there, Dr. Benson. The blue and black community, particularly the challenged black community in blue, have a very sensitive relationship. What we tried to do, we were instrumental in supporting the City of Atlanta's initiative around educating and training police officers in the mental health arena, where when you get a call of somebody outside naked, with a gun screaming, then, don't come in with your guns blazing. Send those individuals that are getting ready to understand what they're seeing and be able to address it. And far too long, it was just force, No one said, well, why is this gentleman or this woman outside butt naked saying that they're a veteran and feeling like grenades are being thrown at them? It's just, we just hadn't had a place of being able to show that other caring side. So there are some efforts being made there, but we still have that old, Wild Wild West mentality as well at times. You come in, you're trained. As I said, I was in the Army, so trained this way, and I can only see that police officers are trained a certain way, and when they come to situations, that training kicks in. And I'm not sure if those scenarios, all of those scenarios, are examples on their training grounds. I don't know if they had a person there naked with no guns, nothing but that in their hand, saying, "I'm going to kill myself." So that's just honestly to say. I did want to say we're looking to give officers a unit in our facilities, our apartment communities, as a police unit, to kind of build that bridge that on one end, he or she is your neighbor. On another end, we're getting free police car outside in the parking lot, so we get some security. We are moving over the next 6 projects that we have that are apartment communities. We are looking at offering officer housing.
Absolutely. Hey, so when we come back, one of the things I wanted to say is I think your genius, Mr. Adams, Leonard, is that you're able to bring together a number of people from a number of different classes and demographics. So we're talking about the high end of the people with money. And frankly, it requires money to do what you're doing. So when we come back, we're going to actually talk a little bit more about that, how you're able to really get people with money to work with people who don't have it. And at the same time, they're doing this, they're really not getting anything in return, except for the satisfaction of knowing they're actually doing just that. But when we will be right back. This is Dr. Robert Benson. I'm talking to Mr. Leonard Adams, and we're Eddie G hanging out with us as well. Book of That Radio Show, and we'll be right back.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, I'm Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. I want you to spread the word to your family members and friends to listen to LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. Absolutely. And let me share with you, why we're going to be focusing on positive things, because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. And now more than ever, when the suicide rate has increased over 33%, when the suicide rate of young children between 5 and 11 has doubled, people feeling hopeless and stressed out and powerless. We need programming that can bring out the greatness in them. And that's what we will be focused on. When you listen, it will be an experience that will transform your life. Les Brown, GreatnessRadio.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, and we're right back. Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson, talking to Mr. Leonard Adams, Mr. Southwest Atlanta, as I call him, the guy who runs that oasis. That's Atlanta, Georgia. But when we left off, we were kind of talking about how the genius of Mr. Adams is that he's able to get people to come together for the common good. I mean, it takes a village to raise a child, we say that, but it actually takes a village to run a village and to keep a village going. And we get different villages that come together and do that. It takes a special level of orchestration genius, if you will, to do that, in the way of getting people to fund, in the way to getting people to show up for events. And I've been to a couple events that Mr. Adams has done just that. It's masterful. But I want to ask him, if you will, Mr. Adams, talk about some of those people and some of those organizations you're able to get to come in and do just that, contribute their piece, their verse, if you will, to running these communities that we're talking about.
Thank you there, Dr. Benson. I mean, I want to first start with saying the Book of Dad radio show, it's every piece that makes us who we are, or make me who I am. So thank you and Eddie G for having me on today.
Absolutely.
Our rubric is government, corporations, philanthropy, and individuals, and then our own equity as an organization. So we believe that government has a responsibility to invest or support vulnerable populations in their city or their state. So that's that for the government. And I think they get that. And that's where you see the city or the housing authorities or the state putting money into ills of their city or state or county. Then you have corporations, which we have really been trying to get corporations to understand. When you see the lady working at the front desk or the man working at the front desk, that is the reception or the administrative assistant, and they're driving in to work 45 minutes to an hour, that's not really all because they just chose to live an hour away from where they work. There are sometimes some underlying factors that the affordability rate around where large corporations are housed here in downtown Atlanta, if we're speaking about Atlanta, you can't afford to live at a person that's making a family of four making 80, 90 grand a year is considered low income in the city of Atlanta. So you have to move out to the suburbs, or even what they're calling now the exurbs, which is the suburbs of the suburbs. So people are driving in, hour and a half to come into the city. Then you have philanthropy. Now, philanthropy's always gotten it. They felt, these are either large corporation or wealthy individuals that have said, I need to give some of my money back. It's just different things that they have their pillars that they support. And it's about getting them to understand if you're not in their wheelhouse, either leaving them alone, which my process is, if you don't support housing, if you don't support services, if you don't support low income people or underserved communities, let's just say you're about global warming. I'm not calling you to try to convince you that you're here in Atlanta and you need to support Quest CDC. Then last but not least, individuals. We couldn't make it without individuals giving of their time, talents, and treasures. And then lastly, we put our money up. As an organization, we put skin in the game to show our funders that we believe in our motto, and they should too. So just to say some of our sponsors in our capital stack, it would be the state of Georgia, Department of Community Affairs, City of Atlanta, Fulton County, Home Depot Foundation, the Home Depot Company, going into the philanthropic group. Then we would move into individuals that are from the neighborhood or not of the neighborhood. We also have other CDFIs, which stands for Community Development Financial Institutions like NeighborWorks and Enterprise Community Partners and Low Income Investment Funds that give money or invest money into what we do. I like to end on the word investment. We pride ourselves in the grants that we use, which is money that we don't have to pay back. But to really to have scalability, you have to, if anyone's listening that's saying, I really want to get into this nonprofit space, I really want to do housing or anything about impact, you're going to eventually turn into a business, no more mom and pop, and you're going to get investments made where you're going to owe some debt to somebody or some organization. And that's why you said you opened up was so vital, that it takes money to make this money go, because you have to make a profit to be able to pay those individuals back. And there are some individuals that want a social impact back to them, a way of doing good, which is the basically ending on the triple bottom line. Triple bottom line is the finance, which most people stop right there. I want to make money in whatever business that I am. Then the environment is kind of rolled in there as the second line under finance. But then there's a third line in the world of business admin or business management or PhD in business. It's called social. And that's the piece that I'm thinking sometimes we forget, or we do that later on after we make big dollars to impact the social piece. And I really would believe that, hope that entrepreneurs, as soon as they start their business, they're able to say, I want to impact the sociable piece of my business and my community from day one versus after you make it big. Because you can hire a person from your local community and have impact there.
Absolutely.
Well, Leonard, I really respect what you're doing. And we at the Book of Dad, when we meet people like you, we're excited. We're always trying to find out ways that we can help contribute and help in the community. One thing that we respect about you is your entire mantra is about educating people on housing, on business, on life, right? And one of the things that when you start a business, there's some famous quotes that would say, if you do something to help others, then it'll come back to you and you will be successful. And that's how life is. And when you deal with people like yourself who have a mission, who think about others, success will always come. And that's what's happened with you so far. So we just wanted to say congratulations on the work you've done and the things you've done for others and the success that you've had because you do things for others.
Eddie G, I thank you for that. I know Dr. Benson want to say a few words, but if anybody's listening, don't chase the money. It's not the money. It's the work that you're doing serving others. The money will come. If you serve enough people, the money will come.
Well, I tell you, man, I am extremely proud of you because I've known you a very, very long time. And to think that what I would call you as a galvanizer and an orchestrator. And I think you do great and unbelievable things. And there just isn't enough time in one show for us to get everything that you've done out of you. So we just want to say that you have an open invitation to come back to the Book of Dad radio show. And along those lines, there is no quote for the day. It's simply this: just follow the example of great people. And that's who we talk to, are great people with great topics. This has been the Book of Dad radio show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. Thank you, Mr. Adams. And I'll see you around the block. Mr. Groves, thank you too. It's Book of Dad radio show. And we'll talk to you next time.
Salute.